XAMPP is probably the easiest way to have a web server and a database running on your Windows machine. What makes it even easier is that it comes as a portable app, so you don't need to install anything, just unzip and run. I will extract XAMPP folder from the archive and then copy it over to a folder named 2, which I created in the root of my system drive C. XAMPP has 3 executables. 2 of them are to start and to stop the server from the command line, and also a control applet which has a graphical interface. However, when you try to launch the server, it may show you quite a few errors in separate pop-up windows. These are caused by your Windows installation missing Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable packages, so you have to install them. I normally use a cumulative package from sites like TechPowerUp to install them all at once. Don't forget that you first need to unzip the package. Do not run the install file from inside an archive, and after you unzip it, run the install all batch file. You may have to accept UAC prompt several times, and when it's done, you will have all the redistributables from all the years of all versions, that means 32-bit and 64-bit, installed on your machine. You may also want to reboot it just in case. However, if you try to run the XAMPP start now, it still shows some errors inside the terminal window, and when you open the control applet and try to start, for example, Apache web server from there by clicking start, it throws you an error, Apache shut down unexpectedly, and same goes for the MySQL database. If you try to run it, it will show you the same MySQL shutdown unexpectedly, and a few reasons why that might be: blocked port, missing dependencies, improper privileges, and so on. When you try to search online how to resolve these errors, you are sure to stumble upon the same solutions copy and pasted all over the internet on the resources you normally use to ask for help. None of them worked in this particular case, and I will show you how to resolve these issues. However, let's go through them one by one, since those recommendations may actually solve your problem in some cases. So the first thing you will see will address the improper privileges part. Basically, you will be told to run XAMPP as an administrator. So that's a silver bullet for everything, a very popular advice and a very poor advice at the same time. Since in a normally working system, nothing requires running with administrative privileges. If running anything with admin rights fixes an issue, that means that either your Windows installation is in a serious trouble and you should do a fresh reinstall, or the software that requests administrative privileges may be a little bit shady and you should maybe reconsider using it. Anyway, that didn't help. Another solution, especially for the MySQL problem, is to delete this file in the data folder inside MySQL. You should actually backup it rather than delete, since you're about to lose all of your databases if you had any. But since this is a new installation which hasn't worked yet, that means there's no databases, and it is very safe to delete this file. Unfortunately, it didn't help. The next set of fixes will revolve around this blocked port recommendation from the error itself. Some will recommend to turn off Windows Firewall or any other firewall you're using, as many antivirus packages come with one. Even though firewalls may be stupid on their own, and you should probably run them on the router rather than locally on your PC. Anyway, this is a little bit stupid solution, since XAMPP runs the server on the local port, and you also connect to it locally, so that's your local machine going onto itself, and firewall should not really affect that. Anyway, disabling the firewall didn't help anything. The other port-related solution deals with the port being used by some other app. This actually has some credibility, since most internet ports are standard. For example, websites normally use port 80 or 8080 for connections and 443 for secure connections, and that means that any web server running will use the same ports, and you have to manage that. And also some other software may use the same ports. One of the most popular applications that does that is Skype. However, you don't have to guess. The XAMPP control panel has a utility called netstat, and it will show you all the ports that are being used. And the ports in question are not used. And also Tomcat server seems to be running just fine. However, if you do have port collision, you may want to just shut down the software that uses the same ports, Skype in this case, or change the config files of the Apache server so it will use another port. However, it didn't help in this case, and mind you, we are not only having problems with Apache, we're also having problems with the database, which uses a standard but a different port entirely. So none of those recommendations that you find online helped in this particular case, but if you actually care to read the errors, in the terminal window when you run XAMPP start file, the problem becomes obvious. The software cannot find the required directories. And also note that some paths use slashes while others use backslashes. It's pretty obvious that both Apache and MySQL were designed as Linux-first applications originally, and they use Linux file systems and Linux paths. And though they could be run in Windows, since they are cross-platform applications, they are not really supposed to. And you are not really supposed to use Windows for anything serious, especially for web applications. Anyway, the reason why it can't find the paths is because I placed the XAMPP folder inside folder named 2 in the drive C root. So to fix those errors, we either need to change all the configs to specify the correct path, or, which is much simpler, just move the XAMPP folder from whatever folder you try to run it from. Some not very smart users tend to place everything, all the folders, on their desktop, so it ends up in their user profile desktop folder, so move it to the root of drive C. Before you do that, make sure that you have closed all XAMPP control panels in your taskbar. Make sure you quit the application, since if you just close it with a cross, it will still stay in your system tray. So exit everything, move the folder to the root of drive C, so the path will be C, or any other drive, D for example, XAMPP, and inside that folder you will have all the rest, the start, the stop, and the control. Run it from that folder, press start on both Apache and MySQL, and this time it launches and works without any issue. So this is how you fix those errors.
I'm the god of YouTube!
Like, subscribe, jingle bells.